I'm Dylan Cuthbert, and I'm the founder and CEO at Q Games over in Kyoto, Japan. And we're here today showing The Tomorrow Children.
So let's start by talking about what your inspiration was for developing this game.
Well, I grew up in sort of 70s, 80s Britain, and on TV there was a lot of Cold War style dramas and TV shows, and a lot of that I wanted to use in a game somehow, which I'd never really seen done before. And at the same time, when I moved to Japan, the Japanese have a sort of fondness for animation from the Czech Republic, and I got into that as well. And I wanted to combine the two because I mean that's kind of like sort of the border of Russia and Europe, and I wanted to sort of combine them all into a game. And then Sony were talking about share play and all this kind of like social elements that are going to come in with the PS4, and I thought, well, what's the best way to do, to bring all that in? And it just occurred to me that, why don't I make like a parody sort of Marxism simulator, and get this game where the fundamental model is to collaborate with everybody. So
Talk a little about the story that you guys have created.
Okay, so there was a Russian experiment in the late 60s, like in the heart, like sort of the thick of the Cold War, I suppose. And they accidentally, the scientists accidentally melted down the human race's like consciousness into this white void that you see on the ground, and basically that is where the whole game sort of blossoms from. And then the actual era of the game is 100 years on from that. So technology has actually advanced from the 60s. So you have like hover cars and all this kind of stuff, but in a kind of broken way, and the political model as well is from that sort of era, that sort of Marxism, sort of communism sort of side of things, but that's also kind of a bit distorted on the way as well, and so that's where it all sort of came from. And you're actually a clone in the game, which is why you're all the same character. You have different clothing and stuff like that to differentiate yourself, but you're basically clones, and you're what we call projected clones, which means that like if you go into dark areas, you'll sort of desynchronize and you'll reset back to the town and stuff like that.
So talk about the gameplay and how it connects people together.
So the world is kind of like this very malleable world. So you can dig holes and you can create things in the world using our like really new lighting technology to do that. But the interesting thing is that we don't have, it's an online game, but we don't have all the players always running around all the time. They just appear when they do things, which removes some of the pressure from that sort of online multiplayer sort of game experience. And it makes you feel like you're in your own world, but then you have these other people coming in and doing things occasionally in your world, which is also happening in their world. So it's a very strange sort of parallel kind of feeling. And I think that's a key thing that makes our game quite different to a lot of other games.
Can you give us an example of scenarios in which I'm playing and you're playing, but we're connected?
So for example, I might be digging a hole somewhere, and it takes a while especially when you first start the game, you haven't built up any skill. I'll be digging a hole and I'll be like whacking away with my pickaxe. Now the other players can see me doing that, so they'll see me like whacking away at the wall, trying to break a hole in it. And if they come up to me, they can actually then cooperate with me. And if they cooperate with me, it halves the speed of the digging. And if another player comes and cooperates, it halves the speed again. So you can it's a kind of an interesting sort of, you really feel like if you collaborate, you can do things faster.
Ultimately, what's the goal as people are playing through this game?
You're trying to restore the human race, basically, and you do that by finding these like Russian dolls which are hidden in these islands, in caves, and they're guarded by monsters and stuff like that. And you've got to take them back to the town, and then when you put them on this giant apparatus, like machine, they get recreated into humans, and then they'll live in the town. So those humans then live in the town. But then once you've got humans living in the town, you've got to keep them fed, and you've got to keep them warm. So you need to have electricity in the town. You've got to keep that going, and you've got to start harvesting apples and stuff to try and keep them fed. And it's got that sort of simulation side to it as well.
How would you define the game if you were going to try to do a mixture of genres?
It's a very difficult to define game. I would say it's kind of like sort of a bit of Animal Crossing and a bit of like a very small amount of like sort of tower defense-ish things. It's not really tower defense. It's more like just defending in general. And then and on top of that, a bit of Minecraft in there as well, because all the digging and all the creating tunnels and exploring and collecting resources and all that kind of thing. But I think it's very difficult to put in one genre. It's like it is its own like unique genre, because then on top of that you've got all the Marxism simulation stuff going on as well. So it's like I think people can be very intrigued by it. It's definitely a game that has never been made before. So I think I'm happy with that. So.